everyone. We will now commence with session 2, which focuses on manifestation of drone threat along the Indian borders and the Indian Ocean region. To chair this session, we have Vice Admiral Tarun Sobti, AVSM, VSM, Deputy Chief of Naval Staff. May I request the Admiral to please come to the stage. Thank you, sir. To co-chair this session, we have Shri SS Rathore, DIG Ops BSF. May I request Shri SS Rathore to please come to the stage. Thank you, sir. We also have a very distinguished panel of speakers. May I request the panelists of this session to please join us on stage. Brigadier Anshuman Narang, retired. Mr. Jasbir Solanki from Mahindra Defence. Commodore Manjeet Thomas. Mr. Rajiv Mehrotra from Shyam VNL. Let me introduce the chairs and the panelists. Vice Admiral Tarun Sobti, AVSM, VSM, Deputy Chief of Naval Staff, was commissioned to the Indian Navy on 1st July 1988. A specialist in navigation and direction, he has commanded 3 warships, including the commissioning command of INS Kolkata. He was held key staff appointments at Naval Headquarters, served as Naval Attaché in Moscow, and led the Eastern Fleet. In 2021, he was appointed as DG Project Seabird and took additional charge as DG Naval Operations. In recognition of his distinguished service, he has been awarded the Ati Vishesh Seva Medal and Vishesh Seva Medal. Shri SS Rathore joined the BSF as a direct entry assistant commandant in 1993 and has over 31 years of distinguished service. He is an alumnus of the Defence Services Staff College and also served with distinction in the Special Protection Group for 6 years. Currently posted at BSF headquarters, he oversees Western Command operations and leads the Technology Cell. He is also the member secretary of Anti-Rogue Drone Technology Committee under the MHA. Mr. Jasbir Solanki, a veteran of the Indian Navy and the CEO of Mahindra Defence Systems Limited, Naval Systems, Homeland and Cybersecurity, with 25 years of experience, is also here. Under his leadership, the company executed the world's largest integrated emergency management system, serving 220 million people. An engineer and financial management expert, he is also a seasoned public speaker. Commodore Manjeet Thomas was commissioned into the Indian Navy in 1996. He is an anti-submarine warfare specialist and an alumnus of JMSDF Staff College Tokyo and NDC New Delhi. He has commanded an ASW corvette, a missile corvette and a stealth frigate, and served as Fleet ASW Officer of the Eastern Fleet and Office in Charge of ASW School, Kochi. He has been also the Defence Advisor of the Indian High Commission in South Africa. Mr. Rajiv Mehrotra, Chairman of Shyam VNL, is a telecom industry veteran and the founder of Shyam Group. A pioneer in low-cost satellite TV and rural wireless telephony, he has played a key role in revolutionizing India's telecom sector. He launched Shyam Telecom, Bharti Hexacom and Shyam Telelink, driving advancements in GSM, CDMA and VSAT services. In 2004, he founded VNL and his latest venture, Shyam VNL, focusing on AI-driven predictive intelligence and cybersecurity solutions. I once again welcome the esteemed panelists on stage. Speakers are requested to kindly adhere to their allotted time. A buzzer will sound 2 minutes before the time limit as a cue to conclude. I now hand over to the chairperson.
Thank you very much. DG CENJOWS, senior officers from the Defence Forces, Central Armed Police Forces, ladies and gentlemen, We are at the second session of the day. This morning we heard a lot about drones, counter-drone systems. We've had very experienced speakers speaking to us about a variety within the domain of UAS. In this session, the focus is more at home, and the drone threat that is there along the Indian borders and the Indian Ocean region. The panel today, which consists of 5 speakers, brings in varied perspectives, a look at the drone threats along the northern borders, western borders, and the Indian Ocean region, that is the maritime space, as well as we also have an industry perspective from 2 speakers, including the advancements in drones and counter-drone systems. Just to frame a few thoughts, lots has been spoken, of course, this morning, and I might be a little repetitive, but what is it that is making us sit together and keep speaking about drones in a number of seminars and a number of times over and over again? I would just like to point out 4 or 5 characteristics which makes it so unique. They are low cost, easy commercial availability off the shelf. They can be produced in large numbers and therefore have mass effect. They are attritable and difficult to detect using the traditional systems. The concurrent adaptation to maritime applications for surface and underwater, over the sea and below the sea, and the adaptation which has been accelerated by tech and AI, that is what makes it so unique. Now, an example by the Houthis. It's a relatively smaller organization, maybe even a non-state actor, but has brought on to bear huge asymmetric advantage in the Indian Ocean, more specifically actually the Gulf of Aden and even the Red Sea, where they have been able to reduce shipping to 60% of what it was before the attack started. And no country, including the US, the European, the UK, the Indian Navy, Japanese, Koreans, Chinese, nobody has been able to counter that, what they've been able to achieve. So that's the real challenge, and that's the real struggle that we are talking about. If there is a weapon system, there's bound to be a counter to it. And as I see it today, the scale is in the hand of the weapon system, but counter systems are being developed rapidly. And we expect, as has happened with weapon systems that have been newly introduced in the past, the balance would be restored. And we look forward to the time when the balance is restored, where both drones and counter-UAS systems are at an even keel. So with that, I would invite the first speaker. Brigadier Anshuman Narang has already spoken to us with his vast experience in the first session, but I'll request him to share his thoughts and his experiences of the drone threats along the northern borders.
Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, from missiles drone strategy to drones threat along our northern borders. While if the propaganda was true, the Chinese would be not even 10 feet, 100 feet tall. So we have to make a balanced view of where they stand. This is a Ukrainian perspective, and I will get your attention to the last 3 lines. Except for Ukrainians, Russians, and maybe the Chinese, not many people realize that it's happening right now. So why will a Ukrainian say that Chinese are realizing what's happening? The point is, they're seeing them closely involved in the technological development, and it's clear that the Chinese are learning the lessons well. This is what Xi Jinping had to say in 2022, and he's clear that all the Ds have to be performed by the drones. Disruptive, dangerous, difficult, dull, all these variety of tasks. And actions speak louder than words. So this is the Tibet 14th year 5-year plan, which was about how that unmanned airports have to come up. And these are not just airports launching unmanned vehicles. The plan by 2035 is to have these airports which are completely unmanned. I mean, the ATC and everything. So that's the plan for 2035. And this is a Tibetan document which came out in 2020. How has it affected us? And how is that threat? Please go back to 2010, when the Chinese were still to enter the market. India and China, both having unarmed, that is the normal surveillance drones, and looking for combat versions. 2010. What the Chinese, very good at reverse engineering, whether the Soviet models, the American models, and went about first generation, second generation, and third generation. What happens? Please remember, Iran entered the market earlier. Finally, in 2014, they get a sentinel down, thanks to the Iranians. The Chinese and Russians rush to that place, pick up the parts, connect the dots together. And somewhere around that time, China enters the world market. But that is not, that's the surveillance market. What they also start doing is they have combat drones. And what happens on the map? India doesn't have, China has, and Iran has. 2014. And we move to 2017. China gives to Bangladesh, China gives to Pakistan, and we are still without the combat drones. What happened in this time? The Chinese started manufacturing, they started having their production factories in Saudi Arabia, Iran, they were already working with Iran. They started getting some things from Israel too, and they started giving these models. And you see, Pakistan is getting a whole set of them. And interestingly, Turkey enters the market, and Turkey starts providing the same to Pakistan and Bangladesh. So that three front which I talked about in the last session. Within the technology, the Chinese have reverse engineered quite fast, but from that imitative innovation to indigenous innovation, they have moved. So in some places today, they are being original. And that we have to grant. And their focus, of course, further ahead is quantum artificial intelligence, QI enabled. Now, quantum for a lot of us will not make sense today, but you know, there are few of the labs in India too, like QGates talked about quantum AI. These are things which are there, and we heard a lot of these propaganda papers coming out, nuclear power, robotics for high altitude, we'll just speak a bit later. What's the key factor? Whole of nation approach. Now you're seeing just these firefighting drones which are flying in air in stacks. But if they can do it on the civil, you know, a civilian firefighter is trained for it. In war, rather than throwing water, he's trained to throw something else. That's the change. So from their perspective, like all, they have gone in deep, studied all the wars. While we talked about just the Armenia-Azerbaijan, please remember a lot of things started in Tripoli. So the kill chain concept had already come. I mean, Americans invented it, but it was already being implemented there. And of course, Armenia-Azerbaijan changed the things. So by that time, you had the Chinese coming off how they want to use the drones, all those standard loyal wingmen and everything, etc. But they also came up with the concept of marsupial, that is the mother drone concept, which the Ukrainians applied it quite well, and the manned, unmanned ground operations, unmanned space operations, and they changed that threat. What they were more concerned was enhancing the range, and that range could be enhanced by communication, by moving to satellite communication, by enhancing the power, or of course the stealth. So in all these manners, the range of reaching India was not a concern. They were looking far ahead towards the second island chain and third island chain. Now what drastically changed was in 2019 when they had this military parade. There were 9 groups paraded during that military parade in 2019, and each of those 9 groups had an unmanned component. So multi-service, joint service, unmanned occupied. And then came the Ukraine war, 2020 till today, 2022 till today, which has changed the dynamics, and we discussed a bit earlier. But how have the Chinese copied that? I mean, you know, from that 2022 to 2025, a battle space geometry change, the organizational structure change of how things have moved, and how at every stage the drones have moved. In this shift to small kamikaze drones, the leading assister was of course a DJI. So both sides were using DJI. Now in addition, Chinese realized DJI will not be good enough by their own, and they've gone about and ordered 1 million kamikaze drones. Now, a lot of American experts tried to come out with papers, and this is one just paper which said 3 to 4 years they will take to produce 1 million kamikaze drones. So 1 million is 10 lakhs. The Ukrainians are claiming that in 2024 they produced 1 million drones. So if Ukrainians can do it, Chinese surely can produce this 1 million kamikaze drones in 1 year. So it's not necessary to produce right now. But the point is, when war comes, have the capacity. And now I'll display their propaganda. So you go through Ukraine, Russia, what has happened and what they've gone about. The DJI drones, the utilization of the OEM, the FPVs, shifting from OFCs to FPV drones, changing the battle space, and then whole tests, skilling the pilots in training to be able to undertake such operations of net, hunter-killer combinations, precise operations, and being able to exactly hit the person where it's required. So they've gone through the whole cycle, and in one video, they summarized that yes, what is happening in Ukraine, we are achieving it. Now, that was not enough. They moved to the UGVs. Now, I showed you those quadcopters. See the unmanned ground vehicles in a firefighting role. What they do next? Try it in Xinjiang. This is January 25. This is a photograph which came earlier, but then they finally tried it in January 25. Then, of course, using multi-domain, that is an unmanned ground vehicle launching an aerial vehicle. Then the logistic components. Then move on to that machine-machine combination using, and this is a similar kind of a set which Ukrainians used it in end December 25 for the first unmanned assault completely. And then, of course, the mining, demining by air, dropping those vehicles, and moving further to incorporating it in their doctrine. For the amphibious operations, getting that doctrine, how that manned-unmanned teaming will take place. Yes, they have their own concerns and problems of doing it in high altitude, where these things are just as support tasks. And yes, of course, finally leading to the point where machine fights a machine. You can see it, these are just Diwali firecrackers being used on two machines fighting against each other. That comes to the role of algorithm superiority. Now, that is what they are preparing for. And if the current war was for FPVs and drones in stacks, the next one is supposed to be for swarms. And that is what the Chinese are preparing for. Again, an example of what they're doing in the civil. We have seen those light shows, fantastic sound and light shows, 13,000 of those drones being used. And this is what they are doing of swarms in jungles and urban terrain where they are able to operate. And sure enough, in high altitude, in Tawang and other places, they have tried it. So within those swarms, it's not just the bees in the air or the pigeon flocks in air or the ant swarms on ground or the fishes shoal on sea. It is about multi-domain. Packing these sponge together and using it together, whether a decentralized or a fully autonomous. For that, if you go through those Tuesday and Thursday articles of the Chinese on their military forum, you'll come across these are the tasks which they are planning. So, I mean, it may just be propaganda, but at least they are listing out that these are the tasks which they are looking for, and they have identified what are the advantages. Now, if you look at the exercises and what they are saying, some bit of matching is there. So that is what we have to keep in mind. And last, what are the missions for these swarms are absolutely clear. So this is what the Western media came up at, how that kill chains which have evolved may get applied in a Taiwan scenario. But we are bothered about northern borders. Now in northern borders, this is what I appreciated in 2017 in my book, and I've upgraded it a bit more, that how they could manifest in land-based in northern borders. To support that, I highlight these issues. How are they manifesting today in Western Theater Command? Now, Sichuan is the location where the Western Theater Command headquarters Chengdu is. And exactly that place, these are the militias of Chinese who are getting trained. I'm starting from the civil first, then I'll come to the military. This is what they did in January 2025 when the Tingri earthquake took place. For all who can't realize, this is a drone being used for lightening up the area where the rescue operations are to take place in the night. And if there was a doubt that it may just be militia, the 357 BD regiment, which is right opposite Nepal area, was involved in it. Now, these BD regiments are what they're supposed to hold. So the military sub-districts opposite our own area, opposite Tibet, Shannon, and those Shigatse and such districts, together the militia and the border defense regiments hold this. Now, what is the fighting teeth? Are the combined arms battalions. Now, these combined arms battalions, when you compare to what the Russians have modified during the Ukraine war, these battalions have gone about incorporating these lessons learned. And finally, when you get to a combined arms brigades, in each organization structure, from small drones in battalions to the medium range drones in an artillery battalion, to the reconnaissance battalion, which also holds the FPVs, and finally to the combat support battalion, which is a medium range company. So you're building the block up with these combined arms brigade. These 6 combined arms brigade form together a group army. Within that group army, the artillery brigade has its own assets, but more importantly, the aviation and SOF brigade have 1 UAV battalion each. We go up one step and you get to the Air Force. Now, the Air Force by itself has the 178 UAV brigade in Western Theatre Command, along with another test brigade which is there. And if you have to believe the recent rumors, there is an army itself which has raised a UAV brigade, and this is the kind of infrastructure development. This is Xinjiang and this is Tibet. So Eastern Ladakh and Arunachal Pradesh, this is the area which they are developing. They've highlighted and identified which are the UAVs in each airport which are operationalized today and operating against us. So that's a wide forum. WZ-11 is absolutely a question mark of it getting used, but of course on the Taiwan front is there. Now when you add these group armies, you create the theater command and you get the structure up. In addition to the theater command, you have the rocket force, the aerospace force and information support force, spreading around the complete array of Western Theatre Command and exploiting where they are located. And when you add the civilian component, those firefighting departments and all, it becomes extremely complex to take on these complete set of operations. Airspace management, frequency management, and operating in high altitude will be a challenge. But what they are looking at is that layered security strategy. What happened in Kailash range, they don't want it repeated again. To facilitate that, they have identified in which all layers they will have these UAVs operating. And if I have to summarize, in gray zone or hot war, right from the sub-tactical to national level, they have gone about in highlighting what each level needs to be contained. Summarize, their race is to surpass US. And that's what creates a problem with us because the asymmetries get widened. They are surely lack of battle experience, but they are masters of standoffs and they are learning. So we should not allow them. Yes, for us, from those waves of soldiers in 1962, you will not find soldiers alone. You have to be prepared for soldiers, drones, and machines. And that is what the psychological, as someone pointed out, resilience has to be taken care of. Data is the key. Today, any algorithm will learn as much as the data is there, and we have to be careful of it. What's our vision? What do we do? That's a lot of thought, time permitting, but I leave with this thought. At the section, platoon, company, and battalion, I'm not talking about higher because higher there are many more options which are there. Each and every of this thing can be implemented. The complete industry, the leaders are there, and if we just join plans, we can implement it. I leave it with that thought. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Brigadier Narang. That was an exposition of the amazing capabilities and a close look at the Chinese capabilities in the US domain. But interestingly, also brought out some of the way they've adapted their organization to induct themselves in the military structure so that it's not just that they have the assets, but they also have the organization to carry forward the battle. I will now call upon Jasbir Solanki, who is CEO Mahindra Defense Systems and Naval Systems, to tell us about drone warfare and countermeasures and shaping the future of combat. I'll also request follow-on speakers to try and condense their time if they can. We are looking at lunch at 13:30, and it would not be good for this panel to stand between lunch and the audience.
Thank you, Chairman, sir. I promise I'll keep it very short, 6 slides only. So not more than 6 to 7 minutes. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'll give the industry perspective, but this will be my personal perspective, not my organization perspective. Just wanted to make it very clear. You will see us, we are getting into anti-drone space, and we saw this challenge from coming from our defense forces. We are in this for a long haul. Our idea is to develop technologies which are 1 level or 2 level ahead of our adversaries also. That's our focus area. So what I'll do is I'll talk about 3 points only. What is changing in the world, right? That's point number 1. What has shifted in the world. The second is what technologies we are talking about. I'll talk about anti-drone technologies. And the third, what we are trying to do to solve that problem. So what has shifted in the world? It's not in this slide. There are 2 things. One is on the technology front, and it has been talked about from the first session itself. AI will change the world. And this will change in every industry, every space, every place. So that has shifted, and we have to play our role in this industry evolution which is happening. The second thing which has shifted in the world is geopolitics. Everybody wants to protect themselves. All the country, and this you have seen from the COVID perspective. Nobody could imagine that the countries will shut down. States within the countries will shut down. The districts within the states will shut down. The societies will get locked, and your home will get locked. Similar things will happen. The war is real. It's going to happen. The conflict is spreading. So that's the second point. This has been talked about. The drone industry is growing. As Sir has said, that once the weapon system grows, you have to have a counter also, countermeasure. So we are in the countermeasure space. The technologies which are there is already listed here. There are encrypted 5G. These are new things which are coming out. Autonomous UAS systems which are coming out, and we have seen this in all the conflicts and war, how it is changing. So and these will keep evolving, right? Nobody thought about there will be a fiber optics cable used on a drone for 20 kilometers, how to protect against that, right? It's a real threat. Your current technologies don't cater for it. How it needs to be done, it's some part of it is that the future systems in counter-drone space has to be autonomous. It has to be powered by AI. It has to cater for your current emerging threats and the future technologies also. And it has to work on its own. The human is required, but human gets overloaded by the swarm of drones or the technology which will come. So you need a AI or machine plus human together working to improve your efficiency and effectiveness. This is just an example given airspace where there are 4 or 5 drones are happening, what you'll track, how will you do it. Some of the technologies I've listed, most of you are working in this domain or related to it, so these are the new things. Radar has always been there as part of this, EOR, part of the security system, RF detection, spectrum analyzer. What is the beauty is that how you integrate all of them is very important. These components are already existing with the defense forces, but how you integrate and put the intelligence into it is very important. That's what we are trying to do. And then you have the mitigation systems, right? They're all existing in some shape or form. But how to use laser technology with your detection systems and multiple systems coming together. So that's where the key lies. That's where the fusion system lies. That's where you need the command and control systems to come and play a role. What we are trying to do is, we'll talk about 2 technology. We have already announced 2 partnerships, one with the Centrix. So this solution which you see is, our idea is to work in counter-drone space from an urban space to the battlefield area, right? So what is the solution for an urban space, right, for this auditorium to be protected? Or a critical infrastructure on oil and gas to be protected. So this doesn't require a radar. This doesn't require a jammer. This solution automatically detects any drone flying. You can set a 5-kilometer area for detections, 1-kilometer area for interdiction. So in 1-kilometer area, if a drone comes, automatically the system will take over and lands it at a safe position without a human intervention into it. It also gives you the location of the operator. So it's important for the special forces, because sometime when you're operating in an environment, you need to know who's controlling this drone. So it'll give you the location of the operator also. The second, and this is the interesting thing which we are trying to do, is solve the problem on the battlefield front also. And with the Endural, this is one of the largest company in US who's changing the landscape in US from the defense perspective. They are innovating technologies which are two level ahead of it. And they have the killer drones into it. They have the Roadrunner as part of it, the electronic warfare. So our idea is to indigenize some of these solutions, bring it to our forces. That's all from my side. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Jasbir Solanki. Pertinent point, what has changed? And the speaker's view was that two things have changed. AI has changed and its pervasive impact on all the things that we do, and the other is that geopolitics has changed. I also thank him for providing a broad framework for the counter-UAS systems, and the very important point that he made was of course we may have a variety of systems, but the integration of these systems into a comprehensive defensive system is what will make and break things. With that, we move to the next speaker, Commodore Manjeet Thomas. He will speak to us about the drone threat in the Indian Ocean region. Over to you, Manjeet.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. If my Deputy Chief has told me to keep it short, I have to. In the next 10 minutes or so, I'll give a very brief perspective on the drone threat which we face in Indian Ocean region and the technologies that we envisage are required to be developed or are in the process of developing to counter this threat. Much has been spoken about the Indian Ocean region. 33 littoral countries, about 3 billion people, about a third of the bulk cargo, 2/3 of the oil shipments. But what is most crucial is that about 40% of this oil passes through three particular choke points: Bab el-Mandeb, Malacca, and the Gulf of Hormuz. And it is where the drone threats are playing out right now. And even minor disruptions, like what we have seen in the case of Suez Canal, which has happened almost to this date, around 4 years back, has substantial implications on everyone living in this sphere and beyond. There are also close to around 14 sovereignty issues in this region and conflicts which are going on, which has got ramifications worldwide, and constant presence of extra-regional maritime forces. All this adds on to the complications, which we have heard from previous speakers, of how drones are enabling a change in the symmetry of forces. One very interesting fact in this region is that the aspect of drone employment has actually been perfected by Houthis. And they've not started now, they've started almost a decade back, from 2016. If you look at it, they targeted the first commercial shipping in 2017. They targeted the first a foreign port in 2017. They actually started targeting warships starting from 2018. 2019, they, in fact, the Aramco incident happened, and where they demonstrated precision targeting. And now all of these gadgets which they use, they've been perfected over the time, and now we are seeing another realm of drone warfare which is happening. Coming to the drones, we have various types of drones as listed here. But what is really complicating the issue is some of these drones operating in tandem across various domains, as earlier brought out by Brigadier Naran, and operating with other platforms, which is something which we find increasingly so in the maritime domain. As I stated earlier, the past decade has seen proliferation of the drone technology and also development of several new technologies. Now, what has been visible, those drones which has captured our imagination is drones like what is mentioned here, Shahid, or maybe the Tufan 1 series. Now, what makes it complicated for a warship? A warship legacy system has been designed to operate against a conventional aircraft, a missile, or a conventional ship. Now, with those legacy systems, actually countering a drone throws up several interesting questions. Firstly, we are now operating in an environment where the adversary has intrusive surveillance on our movements 24/7. Secondly, we need to take cognizance that our systems which are fitted on board a warship, many of them legacy systems, it needs to be upgraded or adapted to counter this new threat. Third, what do we throw at against a drone which is coming in? Is it cost effective? As mentioned earlier, you are trying to throw $1 million SAM system, a SAM against 10,000, or a drone which costs in lakhs. So there is a need for developing better weapon systems which are low cost. It also leads to several incidents of, you are now operating in an area where mistakes can be costly. Just a few weeks back, we had this incident of USS Gettysburg. A Ticonderoga class cruise vessel which actually shot down FA-18, which had just taken off from the aircraft carrier. Whatever may be the case, the task force was at that point carrying out strikes against Houthis. There were several warnings about drones in the air. There were attacks, and it triggered a mistake, a costly mistake. So we are living, or we are operating in a different kind of environment right now. Now, what's of real concern is the effectiveness of the drones when they are part of a coordinated operation or when they are part of a tandem operation. Now, the sinking of the Moscow on 14th April of 22nd has brought forth this to our imagination, though it has been happening in the past. Now, Moscow was operating off the coast of Odessa. You had the TB2 drones in the air. You had a P-8 which is operating beyond. And then you had, you are within the range of shore-based batteries. Now, if you look at it, each of these platforms had the capability to fire a missile at the ship. Essentially, at the end of the day, the adversary could fire a missile at the time of his choosing, bait the enemy to expose himself, and strike at will. Moscow had enough anti-defense capability to tackle 2 Neptune missiles. But the combination of all these factors together enabled a successful kill. Now, in the Indian Ocean region, the Houthis have constantly demonstrated such principles. Many of the attacks which has happened in the Red Sea has seen UAVs which are operating in tandem along with unmanned surface vessels, semi-submersibles, as against the commercial shipping, sometimes operating along with the land attack cruise missiles, sometimes, as we have seen in the case of Aramco, oil tanks, then operating along with ballistic missiles, which we constantly see happening now. So the tandem operations actually increase the lethality, baits exposure of the enemy, and then provides the intelligence build-up for the adversary to carry out precision strikes. Now this brings us to the development of a pattern emerging with respect to employment of drones. Firstly, use it for intrusive surveillance of the enemy. Secondly, use it as a tool for precision targeting. Much has been spoken about precision targeting, so I'll not repeat it. And third, if you're operating near the coast, it adds to the lethality and efficiency of attack when used in tandem. And yes, fourth, it can swarm defenses. And finally, it is an ideal tool for area denial. Now here, I would like to draw the attention to the concept of mobile minefield, something which we are grappling right now. We have the aerial vehicles, you have these, the surface vehicles, and now we are coming into the age of unmanned subsurface vehicles which are controllable. So if you can put 50 of them, and if you have payloads which are sufficiently large enough, then you have a minefield. And this minefield is mobile. And this minefield is recoverable. So a lot of interesting possibilities emerging with the passage of time and with the development of technology. Now coming to the countermeasures, the first countermeasure starts with detection, and with respect to the radars, which means having a micro-Doppler capability, and having this capability, the possibility of having this capability within our existing system, whether we can upgrade those systems to have this capability. The capability of having accurate classification techniques, ranges which are long enough so that a weapon or other soft kill measures can be taken against it. Having direction finders, which of course if you are operating near the coast will have great difficulty because of the 5G environment coming in. Having AI incorporated in this. Eliminating the false alarm rates in a UIR system. Enhancing its performance in a maritime environment. When countering a semi-submersible, solving the issue of detection amidst sea clutter, and tackling with a hybrid drone which can stay on the surface as well as dive. When you come to the jammers, Ukraine war has shown us that the efficiency of jammers, disruption of the control link, but what do you do with autonomous drones? What do you do with pre-programmed drones? What do you do with drones which are playing the cat and mouse game, which are improving their antennas, directionality, in maintaining the control link? These are challenges which the industry and us, we together has to resolve. Coming to the GNS jammers and spoofers, now we have the technology for jamming and spoofing GNSS receivers, but the real challenge remains in how to operate our own systems within this environment. While we jam and spoof, how do we make ourselves alive and operational? How do we give the GNSS feed to our systems? The GNSS denied environment is no longer fiction. It is something which is now a reality in our operations. And finally, coming to the hard kill part of it, while we still consider that small arms, I'm talking about 12.7 mm, might be a very, very viable solution if integrated well with detectors such as UIR. MR and CR guns having pre-fragmented proximity fuse enabled ammunition, and direct energy weapons which operate at, talking about 150 kilowatts, so that you can actually target at a sufficient range, manpads of course, and low cost surface to air missiles, not costing in crores but in lakhs, and having a good weapon sensor integration. These are some of the recommendations which I have. I strongly believe that the vulnerability is not equal to obsolescence. So there is a need to upgrade systems. Then there's a need to induct and integrate readily available technologies from the industry putting AI in the detection loop, having the ability to scale a production and develop, cater for the surges. And as one of the previous questions came from the audience, the process of D&D and the acquisition process, making changes to that. With that, I've come to an end. Jai Hind.
Thank you, Commander Thomas. He brought out some very pertinent aspect, the necessity to protect our economic lifelines at sea and how that is being disrupted, especially by the Houthis, who are able to attack our economic lifelines at sea at longer and longer ranges, 1,500, 1,600 kilometers. He also brought out for us the peculiar challenges of the maritime domain and the use of UAVs in tandem to enhance the lethality of traditional and existing systems, missile systems, and the demonstration of that capability. He introduced a novel, interesting concept of mobile minefields at sea, which is using autonomous and controllable underwater autonomous systems to create temporary mobile minefields and call them at will when required. So thank you very much, Commodore Thomas. I'll now call upon Mr. Rajiv Mehrotra, who's the chairman of Shyam VNL Private Limited. Incidentally, Shyam VNL has a very interesting booth or booths at the exhibition today. I'd urge you all to go and have a look and see what they have. But for us, he will, being a specialist and an indigenous specialist in this field, will bring to us advancements in drone detection systems and the challenges in systems and operations. Over to you, Mr. Mehrotra.
Thank you, Chairman, sir. Honorable panelists and distinguished guests, on a lighter side, you know, there are no free lunches, so you have to listen to this presentation. So, and 2-3 things I just want to, before I start, want to bring to your notice so that you have total clarity. What all we are saying, what all we are showing down, it's all ours. Conceived, designed, manufactured, operate, maintain, over lifetime, 8 years, 10 years. And we have all this experience. And many panelists before me and CDS also said, terminology has to be standardized. Specifications have to be standardized. And they all have to be tested. Saying that we will test it in the field doesn't solve you. That's an I buy kind of thing. I like this, so I say, okay. But no, that's not the thing. There has to be specifications and standardization. So I'm going to emphasize on that. And once we have that, then we know we can detect or defeat what all is coming towards us. And they all have to be cost effective, extremely cost effective, and they should all be upgradable. And we need them in, if not in hundreds of thousands, then in tens of thousands at least, looking at our borders and what all experience we have. So this is, yes, it is changing every day. Everybody knows about it, all these sensors, etc. And the main thing is detect, identify, and then destroy. Detection, you all know all these sensors are used, and there is no 100%. It's not that you use this sensor, then this will happen. You need different type of sensor to ensure that you get 100% detection and then 100% neutralization. And then there are some people say that they need to identify the drone, and they want to know where is the controller. So, you know what is there in US and Europe? They have a rule, and which is very effectively used always. Each and every drone has an ID inside that, which it is always transmitting. So you know who he is. Whereas there is no such thing outside of Europe and US. And in industry, we have a saying. You you may buy the best system in the world. There is no guarantee whatsoever of any kind that it will be successful in India. But a system which is designed in India, it is guaranteed it will be 100% successful anywhere in the world. So these are normal drone detection, RF radar, and electro-optic and acoustic. So acoustic thing doesn't work. It used to be. Coming to RF detector, again, we are talking of drone detection, which is FPV and civilian drones and others like that. We are not talking of air defense system. So the range, what kind of range? 3, 4, 5 kilometer, 5, 6 kilometer for RF detector and drone detection radar, maybe maximum of 3 kilometer. Soft kill, jamming, it works 100% of cases, except if there is a fiber. But when there is a fiber, which started about a year and a half ago in Ukraine, but Ukraine has a very, very unique terrain, which is flat, 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 no trees, nothing. So yes, it is possible. But then there is a question of a distance also. It cannot go beyond 1 kilometer or 2 kilometer because of different reasons. So you all are familiar with that, your wire-guided missiles, etc., or rockets. And jamming works. Spoofing, as everybody knows, you have issues with that. And taking over the drone protocol, that is not possible. I mean, if somebody has, until unless it's an open protocol, yes, open protocol. And even if you take over, what will you do with that? If it is 1 or 2, it's a different thing. It's more of an academic thing that people get some satisfaction. Control ले लिया हमने, control लेके करोगे क्या भाई? एक थोड़ी है, 4-5 होंगे तो 4-5 लोग हैं जो कंट्रोल कर रहे होंगे. 4-5 जने आपके पास ऑपरेटर होंगे उतने जो उनका कंट्रोल लेंगे. So, realistically, what is possible on the ground, the person who has got a gun and he has something coming towards him, he needs to protect himself. And then throwing a mesh, etc. Yes, these are very attractive things. Coming to hard kill, as Commodore Saab said, and we believe in that, using a 7.62 for about 500, 600 meter, 4 of them mounted. We have done something like that. 4 7.62, 6 are mounted on a pan tilt platform. And then you can go for the half-inch one for about 1,800 kilometers. So basically, you are replacing that Zook 23, etc., so something like that. And that becomes extremely, extremely cost-effective. सस्ता सुंदर टिकाऊ है और lightweight है. 1 ton के ट्रक पे आप ले जाके लगा सकते हैं, चला सकते हैं उसको. But this is possible only when the user has a mindset that yes, मेरे को ये करना है and something new. But because it involves firing and guns, etc., the user involvement has to be 100% like this. Then only any of these things will happen. Otherwise, we will be at the same place 5 years from now and discussing. And high power, okay, laser or micro, very specific use and cannot be used in large volume and suitable for urban areas or some specific use case, very, very high value asset where a lot of power is available because laser needs power. So that we have categorized 4, but they are 7. International borders, you need a different, the requirement is linear. And you know, whatsoever is coming from that side, we have to just detect and shoot. Airports is an urban area. The range may be maximum 1 kilometer and not more than that because you are covered by the civil infrastructure everywhere, and there will be some drones in use. VIP offices, residential area. Just imagine Central Delhi. You need a different solution for that. You need a solution, you need a radar which can detect just 250 meters or 500 meters, and you need to have a permanent solution over there. This is going to become a problem, if not today, 2 years from now, globally. And critical infrastructure, it's a different thing because they are away from the city, a lot of open area in between their boundary wall and the rest of the structures. And, in the urban areas, just imagine you are in Chanakyapuri, you're driving in a car with a sunroof, You open, anybody can open the roof and can just send a drone, sir. Nobody can detect it. Then the distance between the road or the car on the road and the boundary wall of any embassy is not even 100 meters, just for making a media coverage. So this is radio detector, gives you about 45-degree resolution. Drone detector radar gives you 6 degree. RF jammer gives you 15-degree resolution, and EOV pin system gives you 0.1 degree, just to give you an idea. And this is how you protect them, by putting different type of specification, the equipment with different specifications for different use case, vulnerable areas, and then Omni and a directional jammer for an airport or a very big, how shall I say, complex or something like that. So this is what kind of raster you get. With radar, you get 500 meter away or 5 kilometer away. That is the raster you are getting. With electro-optic, that's what you get. So it will give you an idea what exactly you need to have, like you have 0.22 and then 5.56 and 7.62, etc., or a half inch. So you need a different type of detection system, different type of mitigation system for depending upon the use case where exactly it is. एक डंडे से गधे घोड़े खच्चर सबको नहीं हाँक सकते. You need different tools for that. So this here we have tried to give an idea what exactly is required and where it should be implemented. This is just a suggestion. Rest all depends upon the actual location of each and every site. And then everything has to be end-to-end integrated so that it can be integrated into northbound system or a larger system, and everything has to be managed. Even if it is a drone gun or even if it is a standalone system for use, but it should be integratable. And in any system, leave anti-drone system, any sensor, you need power for that system to work, you need secure communication to bring the information back. For taking action, you need C2 or C4 integration with that. And then comes the sensor spec. Sensor spec is the lowest in priority. अगर power नहीं है तो कुछ भी नहीं है, और इनमें से कोई भी एक चीज़ अगर नहीं है, that entire sensor is useless. And we have experience of these kind of mistakes which have been made in the past by the user, by the customer, not taking care of the power, earthing, and everything. And the system doesn't work. I mean, they are just collecting dust. And this is the anti-drone gun. It's a kind of a, everybody likes to talk about it. Everyone wants it in their hand. But thing is, with the gun, how you will use it? Where is the drone? Who will tell you that the drone is in this direction? So that is to be thought. So the challenges are between the desirability and feasibility. The requirement should be realistic and achievable. And it's not an air defense system. It's a simply air anti-drone system. Specification, etc., discuss with the industry. Users have not used it. Foreign companies, partners here, they work with the colored brochures and very nice presentations. Have they used it? And Indian industry, discuss with the industry who are really designing them, because they are in the industry, and I can say about my company, we have a lot of knowledge about it, and maybe something which you do not, I mean, how shall I say? We are in the trade, so we know what is happening in other countries or by other, I mean, we have that information which is of interest to the country and nation and to the users. And like we, there are other industry people also who have that knowledge, who have that information. Of course, CDS said standardization, testing, and terminology. One size fits all, not possible. And drone detection and defeat different things. And see, you must check about the company, about the people with whom you're working, whether they have the infrastructure, where they have. Go visit the industry, work with the industry, go to the industry, Ask them to open their boxes, ask them to show you whether what is there inside this module, where is the schematic. Unless you get deep into it, you won't have neither the satisfaction nor you will get the right technology, and there will be no continuity after 4 years, 5 years, upgrade, etc. will be simply not possible. So recommendation, have a high-level committee of RF domain experts from government and industry, so sit together and decide. Lab testing, specification, field testing. First is lab testing, then field testing, and then validation. And they should be procured. There should be level playing field and provide safeguards. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Malhotra. That is a very interesting industry perspective, which we don't often get to hear. Drawing up of specifications is the user's responsibility, but the user does not have the domain expertise to really be able to decide what is possible and what is feasible. And therefore, it's important to sit down with industry and the designers to draw up user specifications, make them transparent so that everybody can function on that basis. Also testing standards so that the testing is again transparent process and not individual driven. And another important takeaway that we can have from his presentation is the different solutions for different categories of anti-drone systems. Like he brought out, different for airports, different for the international borders, different for VIP offices, and how one solution cannot fit all. It's all based on what category of and what is the nature of defense that you intend to deploy. So with that, I will now request Shri SS Rathore, my co-chair, to take on the last session of the day. I know we're running a little behind time, yet he will bring to us the peacetime drone threats along the western borders, including rogue drones threat. And that's an interesting field because it brings in the BSF experience onto the table. Over to you, Mr. Rathore.
Thank you, sir. And a very good afternoon to all gentlemen. I'd like to bring you all back, if you are still in the future world, looking into the AI domain, or some of you are still in looking after the Russia or the Ukraine war. Now let's come back and see what exactly is happening on the western borders. Western borders is approximately 3,323 kilometers, and the challenge is same, but we see the manifestation of challenge in respect of drones coming through the international borders, transporting arms, ammunition, narcotics, and they've been modified. The normal drones have been modified, and that is what has become a huge challenge now. So in brief, I'll not take more than 8 to 9 minutes. In brief, as you can see here, the normal drones have been modified. These are the normal, the drones which we have seen for the photography purposes, the normal DJI drones. They are the ones which are now modified to carry narcotics. A normal simple drone, a Mavic, can carry approximately 550 grams of payload, which can be narcotics or it can be any explosive. And a Matus kind of a drone can carry 3.5 kgs of payload. So they are using these kind of drones, and then you have the do-it-yourself kind of drones. That is the drones. We have the complete schema available on the internet. You have the YouTube videos. You can assemble your drones in your own backyard. Components are available. So these are the drones which are now being used, flying mostly during night time. And if there are no countermeasures, then any time is a fair time. Multiple drones flights are taking place so as to so as to make it more difficult for the defender to neutralize these drones. Flights are very multi-dimensional. They are not coming on one bearing, so it becomes very difficult to find out as to where exactly the drone will land, where exactly is the landing place or the dropping zone. So they are changing while they are entering Indian boundary. They are changing the bearing 3 times. Likewise, while they are going back, they are again changing the bearing 2 to 3 times. Extremely difficult. Brief about, as you can see here, now the Pakistan-based operatives, most of them, they're very innovative. Now the drones are being prepared, they are flying longer and carrying heavier payloads. These are just few examples you can see, normal drones, but used in a very innovative manner. Some of the drones we have seen, they have flown about 20 kilometers one way and carrying payloads of about 20 kgs. And drones are not exactly flying from near the border, they are flying maybe 7 to 8 kilometers from inside the park territory. And then they are crossing the borders. I'll just show you some concoction. This is a simple concoction which is put on a normal mattress Mavic Classic 3 or any of the Mavic drones. So the light source is the normal source which is controlled by the your GPS, your handheld device, which is the ground station, and the servo motor is fixed onto that. The moment you activate the light switch, it's a light activated switch, servo motor activates and the payload is dropped. The payload can be anything. It can be narcotics or it can be an arms ammunition consignment, anything. So we are using a coordinated approach to defeat this. We are having we've enhanced the surveillance measures. We've put in a lot of anti-drone systems. And one example of our success is that over a period of time, we have seen that we've got a lot of kills. Starting from 2021, we had 104 sightings and had only one kill. 2022, there were 321 sightings and we have only 22 kills. In 2023, 442 sightings and 119 kills. And 2024, 739 sightings and 304 kills. So all in all, if you see, 2021, the success percentage was 1%. 2022, success percentage 6.8%. 2023, success is 26%. And 2024, success was 41%. And as sir has very rightly brought out, balance will be restored soon, sir. And most of these successes are in the Punjab area, with the border of only 553 kilometers. Most of the anti-drone systems are also deployed there. So the more sightings, because more systems, more kills because of more kills, because of the more systems. So as you can see here, besides the technologies, we are also bringing new operatives and all new technology partners, putting them into the field, helping them test their equipment on real ground conditions. And we have realized many of the operatives, many of the vendors, they have not much understanding as far as the field is concerned. When they bring the system in field, that is when they realize, what all things are very important. As my previous speaker, Mr. Mehrotra, has pointed out, even power requirement is very important. You see, on border areas, power is very fluctuating, and many times the imported systems may just go off. So power requirement, the deployment, the kind of area you get for deployment, it's not it's not a plain ground. And then you also have to keep in mind that the enemy is also looking as to where all your systems are deployed, because these are systems which is based on line of sight communication. Just a brief about this detection technologies we have put in on border. These are the RF analyzers as well as radars, which is available, which is right now on the border. You can see on the left side, it's a GNSS based system which has a range of around 80 kilometers in one direction, and omni direction it has 10 kilometers of range. On to the right side, you can see the systems which are the detection systems, both RF and the radar based systems are there. A brief about neutralization technologies. These are the system which is there existing on the border, and many more are in pipeline for being added. At the end of the day, we would need systems which is based on hard kill. Hard kill is like when RF system fail, or even the drones which are flying or which are operating on, say for example, OFC based OFC based wire. So hard kill will definitely come into picture. Tactical measures are very important. I know it's like just like man behind machine. So we have identified the likely dropping zones of the consignment, and then we've started putting the deployment in multiple layers. We had a very good coordination with the police, with the Indian Army, with Air Force, and the local administration. Then there are certain choke points which are being patrolled, taking out dumps from the police, and then analyzing the dumps about the communication which is taking place between the criminals on either side of the border, and then getting data from the drone forensic labs. We have 2 drone forensic labs wherein we are able to get the lat long, the coordinates where the drone is flown, the place where the drone has hovered for a longer time, or it has picked up speed, the altitude, when it turned back, entire complete spectrum in 3D is available. So that helps us understand about the modus operandi of the criminals. Also about, we've had good successes in apprehending the criminals who've been, either their drones have been registered on that name or the drones have flown from their houses. There's a good legal framework available. One is the Drone Rules 2021, which is of course for the good drones, wherein all the drones will be given a unique identification number. So in case your drone is, wherever a drone is flying, its visibility is there for the LEAs. Secondly, there will be a red zone area marked, like the military installation or the airport. The drone will not be able to fly into those areas. Right now, as you can see, even the DJI drones will not fly into an area which is, if it is an airport, if it is a marked airport, DJI drones you would like to fly, it will not go into that area. So this will be taking place here in India also. And then coordination between Indian Army, BSF and police is excellent on the ground. And then public awareness is also helping us a lot. People are daily, on an average 2 to 3 drones are being brought down, and on an average 2 to 3 cases are there when the people have come and informed you about these drones, or the people who are searching for the consignment. The future considerations, yes, we are also looking that the DRDO and the technology partners, they bring about something which is based on AI, and which can tell us about the the likely pattern, and as to so that we are prepared for the future challenges. And BSF is also in the process of getting drones which can dominate the area, and we can have a better understanding about what is happening on either side of the border. Challenges are there. Technology is evolving very fast, as we have seen in case of Ukraine and the Russian war. We don't get much cooperation from our counterpart, and there is a risk of collateral damage when we are using the kinetic kill measures. At the end, we are fully geared for the challenge. All with what is required is integration of technology, cooperation, and the coordination with the security agencies. So, and with that, I'm sure BSF will be matching up to the challenge. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, DG Rathore. That was a reality check of what's happening today, rather than sit and envision what is going to happen tomorrow, and the importance of the utilization of drones, not just in conflict or in the military application, but how it impacts security along the borders, and not just land borders, but I assure you maritime borders also during peacetime. Interestingly, he's brought out how things have improved from about 1% kills 4 or 5 years ago to achieving more than 40% kills of the detected systems, of the sightings. I don't know how many sightings have not actually happened, but surely the detection to kills have certainly improved, and therefore we are hoping that the counter-UAV balance is restored. With that, we come to the end of the session as far as the speakers are concerned. Being very conscious of the fact that we've overshot a little bit in time and lunch hour is on us, I will just like to make 2 quick points before I throw the house open for questions. One, if I can ask the audience to deliberate upon the organizational imperatives, procurement, the way the technology, the pace of change of technology is such that we need to dwell upon being able to have a method of fast-track procurement that is already mentioned by General Ajay Kumar in the first session. Should it be diffused? Should the procurement be diffused, and in what manner? There was a talk about blue UAS in the first session, and should it be centralized or decentralized? There were recently orders issued by the finance department that should only be central procurement, and the special powers given to the CNCs on the ground could not be utilized for drone procurements. That poses a great challenge to us. The second aspect is maintenance. Are we looking at maintenance of drones? What are we doing? Are the systems so new that we haven't even dwelt upon how we're going to maintain it? What is going to be the life of these systems, and what is going to be the systems by which we're going to maintain it? Are they aerial systems? Are they ground systems? Who's going to do the maintenance? The command and control, which is to say who's going to deploy, who's going to receive the information, who's going to authorize deployment, who's going to make sure that there is no collateral collisions, etc., that is happening between own forces. Is it going to be swarms? Is it going to be stack? How many people are going to deploy? So that command and control. And the final point in the organizational imperatives I'd like to make is training. Are we thinking sufficiently about training? Are we looking at how we're going to train ourselves? Brigadier Narang brought out how the Chinese have organized themselves in the military domain. What are we doing about training? Are we looking forward enough? The second point I'd like to bring out is the need for communications. A lot of drones that we're looking at today are line of sight. What kind of radios are we using? Are we using software-defined radios? Are we using standard radios that can be easily disrupted? As the drones become longer and longer in range, they will need satellite communication systems. Are we looking at satellite communication systems? Not just for control, but also for receiving the data that is picked up by the drones. Do we have a high throughput satellite over the Indian landmass and the surrounding maritime space to help us control and receive information from UAS, UAVs that we deploy? That's an important thing that we need to think of. I do know that the Indian Navy is doing something about high throughput satellites along with ISRO. But I also realize that we are well behind the curve, much further back than we ought to have been at this point in time. Standardization of data links. Is there a need to look at standardization of data links? Because if each UAS is going to have a unique methodology of a data link, what is going to happen? We're going to proliferate a number of systems, and not just the standardization of data links, but also the ground control stations. If there is a standardized data link, can we have standardization of ground control stations? Because if every system that you deploy, are you going to set up a separate antenna? Are you going to set up a separate ground control station? If that information has to be distributed into command and control networks, will they come with their own unique protocols, which then have to be decoded and fed into a command and control network? So these are some of the things that we also need to look at, besides actually generating the platforms and the counter platform and the counter systems. Maybe we can think upon these lines also. And if multiple users have to receive the information that is being transmitted by, say, surveillance drones, if we do not have common protocols, can multiple users receive that information? If one drone is up in the air, is one person going to receive the information and relay it, or can 20 people receive that information on their own small display systems and be informed about just what one UAV is doing in the air for surveillance? So these are some of the thoughts that I wanted to leave behind before I now open the house to questions. I'll request you to keep your questions very short, and let us know who amongst the panel would like to answer that question. I'll go to you, sir. The mic is with you.
So good afternoon, sir. Air Commodore Jaswinder. I have a question for Brigadier Narang, sir. Sir, don't you think while learning lessons, we have to be little cautious when we are talking of drones? The issue is of detection. Do you think hail, mail, or up to TB2 are likely to be detected by the radar? Because if it is undetected, then it's a bigger threat. So, second is, sir, we discussed, so therefore, is there a point of considering RCS while talking of these drones? Because the RCS, if it is a bigger RCS, it automatically also becomes kind of a aircraft segment, because if he is picked up, he is on the same platform. Second is, when we talk of Armenia-Azerbaijan conflict, and we talk of TB2, sir, I did a study on the reverse side. I thought why there are so many, such percentage of kills taken by TB2 and loitering munition. I realized they didn't have a good air defense system itself. The radars they were deployed were primitive. The Russian older version systems, which will, in any case, performance was poor. The terrain was such that it would have not picked up anything. So, therefore, do you think that we need to be cautious of learning lessons in such aspects?
You're absolutely right, sir. Detection is the biggest challenge, and Bakhtiar maybe way away. I mean, DG BSF exactly brought out the increase in detections, and rightfully Chair pointed out that may not give the complete picture how many have gone undetected. And sure enough, there are so many on the northern borders which have gone undetected. So in the open forum, I leave it at that. Detection is a challenge, and that is why we have to have multispectral bands, and I give an indication, not just C band, you have to have X band, and all possible configuration possibles have to be used for detection, acoustic, EO, radar, multiple bands. It has to be a completely balanced solution, first part, sir. Second part about the lessons of Bakhtiar and others, yes, sir, the lessons have to be incorporated. How Bakhtiar operated in Armenia, Azerbaijan was absolutely different. How it started in Russia, Ukraine was absolutely different. And by a particular time, it was absolutely out. But the Turkey and Aselsan in particular are extremely resilient and extremely flexible, agile in their modifications. So they've gone about doing the modifications. Yes, the Russia-Ukraine shifted to something else. So the lessons are there, sir, and time permitting, a lot. We are short of time, but these are absolute lessons what you pointed out and being picked up.
So I'll take two more questions, sir. The mic with you, sir.
Thank you, sir. I'm Group Captain Narang from IDS. I think one of the problem we have is ownership of technology. We immediately get on to policies, training, aspects. To look about counter-drone technology, if we have to look at it, there's the issue of integration of drones. One is friendly drones, second is the road identification of the rogue drones. That requires development of enabling technologies and the policy. Have three services come on a common architecture so far? Because asking the industry will only be relevant if services are on a track. There was a drone advisory committee in 2023. Some of the recommendations were discussed. Have we moved forward? So my question is to the serving three officers, have we moved forward where we have come to a common architecture of communication systems, drone detection systems, and development roadmap for counter-drone technologies? Because current systems will soon be outsmarted by Pakistanis because their R&D is fairly robust in the small drone segment. So is there a roadmap of development of certain technologies like D4 radar will soon become outdated? So are we working on a next generation radar, RF jammers, and electro-optic systems?
So Manjit, maybe, yeah, I'll also allow Mr. Mehrotra to answer that because he has some expertise. But on the joint services, the three services front, how are we collaborating to drop tri-services specification. Do you know anything about how we moved after the last
I'll
committee?
give several examples, sir, of my answer is limited to the last 1 year. With respect to the exploitation of counter-drone systems, there is definitely a policy. That policy has been promulgated. With the aspect of induction of systems, the staff requirements, there is a any of the service comes up with a staff requirement, it is circulated among all three in the procurement process, so that the other services also know what is being procured, and then you standardize it. So this has been a focus area from the CDS also, which he has emphasized and which is being implemented right now.
Any inputs from BSF and what's happening with the Ministry of Home Affairs, etc. If you have anything, otherwise Mr. Mehrotra is, I know, ready to answer.
My response will be slightly in a different domain, sir. We are like what you've been asking is something for future. What we are looking after is whatever the industry is able to bring up, let us test that. What we have realized that out of 33 demonstrations, only 11 could succeed in their own claims. So that indicates where the technology is. So what you've been asking, sir, that's far more beyond the, what we've been able to achieve so far.
Sir, there will be many such questions, but the bottom line is, unless we have a committee, which, you lock them over here for 2-3 days and come out with a requirement specification, and that is users and industry mean Indian industry. Then that will answer all these things. Coming back to the friend and foe, ours and theirs, that's a bit difficult. Maybe we can discuss on a different forum. And as far as the radio links are concerned, Chinese are using now 5G, and in US and Europe also they are using 5G for drone control. We have the technology for detecting, we are doing it today, for detecting any drone or any device which is operating on 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G, and neutralizing it, detecting and neutralizing it. So they have, on the border, they have all 5G systems, and which is, you don't need a satellite for that. It's very easy, range is good for drone operation, and they can move forward. Very low latency, extremely low latency. And there is another model which is, the user is not aware. There's only this much difference between user and industry. I'm not here to trying to sell something. I'm just sharing with you. Work with industry, and because you are the user, you are interested in the end result. मेरे को तो drone पकड़, मेरे को guarantee दो यार, कोई भी drone नहीं आएगा. मेरे को तो that is your requirement, sir, as border, sir. You need drone detect करो और उसको neutralize करो. So go for GOCO model or COCO, government-owned company operated. We have experience in that. We have done that one project for government for 8 years. Another is COCO. We own the technology. We bring the technology except for the combat zone at the CLC, etc. And this is true. Why it is taking so much time? Because I don't know something. Just analogy. Maybe that is actually the right analogy. घर में बच्चा कुछ मांगता है, माँ से मांगता है, माँ कहती है बाप से पूछो, बाप से मांगता है, वो ठीक नहीं है, वो कहता है दादा से पूछ लो. फाइल इधर से उधर ही हम भेजते रहते हैं, तो वो कभी होगा नहीं सर. डिसीजन लेंगे ही नहीं हम, क्योंकि मेरे को पता नहीं है. You are asking me to take a decision on something, or he, we will not. So best is, हमें तो outcome चाहिए, हमें drone detect करके दो आप, और 100% दो, set with 98, 90, 100%. It should be 100% actually. It's like you are sitting in a plane and pilot says कि मैं take off करने की कोशिश करता हूँ, 98% chances हैं. So sir, go for कि हमें ये output चाहिए. That's all. Nothing else. And monthly पैसे लो, quarterly पैसे लो, और जो करना है करो यार. What all you want to do, मेरे को तो ये पकड़ के दो.
Very interesting thoughts on GOCO and COCO models. So that's the last question, ma'am. Okay. If yes, so maybe you can have a bilateral dialogue. Is there any other question before I close the floor today for this session, and we can all go for lunch? Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much.
Thank you, panel 2, for the in-depth analysis of the drone threats while highlighting the critical challenges and the need for proactive countermeasures. May I now request Vice Admiral Tarun Sobti, Deputy Chief of Naval Staff, to present mementos to the distinguished panelists. Shri SS Rathore, Brigadier Anshuman Narang, Mr. Jasbir Solanki, Commodore Manjeet Thomas, Mr. Rajiv Mehrotra. May I request DG CENJOWS to present a memento to the chairperson? I request the dignitaries to please come forward and join us for a group photograph.